Whether you're leading for the first time, leading through change, or learning to lead all over again, this space is for you. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk from those who've led through challenges, adapted under pressure, and thrived in the face of change. Welcome to Command to Corporate, where leadership isn't just taught, it's lived. Let's get to work. Hey everybody, welcome back to Command to Corporate C2. How you doing, T?
Pretty good, Larry. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing well. We're your hosts with the most. And T just came back on vacation. How was it?
Yes, sir. It was fabulous. I spent a couple of weeks in Europe, driving around a couple of countries. So it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, you don't realize you need a vacation until you take a vacation,
Oh,
and
for
then
real.
afterwards, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
After that, I
Why
don't know
haven't
if
I
you
done
want to
this
come back to
sooner?
work.
I know. That's always a hard thing with vacations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Well,
How
that's
was your
good, man. I'm
vacation?
glad you enjoyed yourself. And hopefully it's not too crazy getting back into the real world.
It's been a shock already, trust me, but it's all right.
Oh man, okay, all right, man. Yesterday I was working on my pool equipment,
Mm.
and I was trying to do like I guess, a year end filter cleanup of my outdoor filters for the pool. So I
Mm.
took it all apart, opened it up. It was a bunch of gunk in there that I had to clean out, probably because I haven't been maintaining good enough chlorine levels. So cleaned it all up, and there's a drain plug that's plastic that sits underneath this big filter canister, this cartridge, yeah, cartridge canister with these big filters in it. I'm tightening it up, and I freaking snap the thing off flush. So there's threads that are mounted in this thing, and I broke the piece off. And I'm like, what the heck am I gonna do? I was like, oh my gosh. I call my builder. I'm like, how am I supposed to get this out? He's like, put some wrenches in there. Put maybe you could wedge in a crescent wrench or pliers or something to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
pressure. But the thing is so low to the ground. So I was like, look, can I take this whole canister off and remove it and flip it upside down? He was like, yes, no problem. So I took it off, no matter, because the opening is probably a inch and a quarter, inch and a half wide. Nothing I could put in there could grip tight enough because it's wet, it's plastic, it's
Oh,
slipping, and
okay.
I don't want to mess up the threads. So I'm tried every tool I had. Pressure, nothing worked. And I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna have to call somebody that's gonna charge me an arm and a leg just to come out and take this thing out. And then I had a hammer in my hand because I tried to like tap it out with the screwdriver, flat tip screwdriver. That didn't work. It just cut into the plastic. I said, well, I want to stop because I don't want to mess up the threads. And I'm holding the hammer and I'm like, I wonder if I slip this hammer in, pull up and twist. And it sure did twist out and it came out.
Really?
I was like, yes, I would have never thought. And I'm just like, every tool I have, and I'm just like, well, maybe if it grips in there and it twisted right out. So then I ordered another one from Amazon. So it should be in, but save the freaking day. I was like, gosh, I was like, what am I going to do?
Then all
It's
the
all like
parts
going to
fall
the
into
gym,
place.
man. I just hulked out on it, broke the dang thing. I'm like, what the heck?
I guess you could use a hammer for every problem you have.
I apparently so.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, man.
Cool.
So I'm just waiting on the part now and we'll be good
Yeah.
to go. Yeah, man. All right, so we'll jump into it. So
Yeah.
now Command to Corporate is shifting gears. This would be the
Hmm.
official launch of our season two material. And what would you say? It's dedicated to the middle, up and coming leaders, middle managers, probably providing some kind of good information to kind of help that growth. Would you say, T, in that area,
Yeah,
in that
no,
space?
absolutely agree. I think, leaders are just starting off, whether it's even individual contributors. I mean, they're always could lean forward and figure out what's expected of them in the future, or newly promoted managers. It's kind of like it's an uncertain world out there because it's a new position, it's new responsibility. And sometimes, I'm guilty of it. I had no idea, the challenges or how to even be prepared for it. Now, there's books out there, sure. This is just another way of kind of preparing young leaders to be managers. That's the way I would describe it. Yeah.
All right, perfect. And it could be some of those that may maybe not be too far along in their
Mm,
leadership career and never had any kind of real leadership training, and so hopefully we can give you some nuggets to help you in your current position and help for their growth moving forward. And so
Great.
this will be season two, episode one, from doer to leader, making the shift. So going from that individual contributor to actually now being in charge of people. And with
Yeah.
that, we'll kick it off with what's the biggest mindset change when moving from individual contributor to leader?
Mm. So for me, the biggest change would be like I am no longer responsible for myself. I mean, that's like self-explanatory.
Yeah.
About a part being promoted up to a manager, but it was still difficult in that transition, because you're so used to worrying about yourself and getting your job done, but now you have to worry about make sure your team gets their tasks done. And I think it's easier said than done, because have to actually put your project aside, and so all of a sudden your efforts become last, and now your primary purpose and motivation is your team. And that's very hard to do because throughout your entire career as a young leader or individual contributor, you just worry about yourself. I want to get my project done, get it done highest quality, and get it done on time. But now the shift is like, is my team okay? Is my team on track? That is very difficult, and it's not easy to do. But that's kind of the obvious answer. But the unobvious thing is just it's hard.
It is hard. And I know, like thinking about days in the military where I think that's most prevalent, where you go from being a peer, and it can
Mm-hmm.
also be in the civilian sector, you
Oh,
go from
true.
being a
Yeah.
peer and then you apply for promotion or you get promoted, and now there's this separation. So where you were, hanging out and like all amongst, now you're now having to be responsible, hold people accountable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a shift not only for you but also for the people, because they could also revert back to, hey, we were just like, why you telling me to come on now,
Ah, yeah.
me, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that kind of thing. And some
Yeah.
people can not handle that,
True.
and think like, oh, now that you're in charge, you acting funny, you're acting some kind of way, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it comes with the role. And that's where you have to step up and say like, look, I understand what we were, but there's a difference now, and I'm stepping into new shoes, and
Yeah.
I have to actually fulfill my responsibilities.
And that's hard because
It
you get
is.
labeled as oh, he's a sellout now. He's one of them.
Yeah,
You
he's one of them.
Also, before we move on, just the biggest thing that like people don't really take into account. I mean, the obvious part is you leading people, but the not so obvious part and the biggest part of being a people manager is all the admin work that goes along with it.
Oh yeah.
That's something that I'm still like you still struggle with. Now you're talking about performance reviews. Now you're
Hmm.
ensuring your team is mentored in whatever their opportunity areas are. And so there's a lot of admin work that goes involved, whether it's creating budgets, schedules, performance management, whatever name it. So those are also very, very, very new things when you become a manager.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, because where you as an individual contributor and thinking along the lines of performance reviews and those check-ins, you're worried about your own work.
Mm-hmm.
You're not worried about anyone else. So you're making
Mm-hmm.
notes, or should be making notes, of what accomplishments have I had this quarter, this half of the year, first 3 quarters, to fill into the end of the year performance review to hopefully get the best outcome possible. Now you're having to pay attention to everyone else. And I really
Yes.
stress that leaders should pay attention. Make
Yes.
those notes, write them down, of your
Yes.
people's accomplishments. And to me, coming out of the military, 5 people is not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
7 people is not a lot for you to pay attention and make
Mm-hmm.
notes. And that's where you have those, however often, check ins to say,
Yes.
what have you been working on? Or some kind of, you know, uh, I'd say like a KPI, or some kind of board that you're tracking key elements of your team's performance,
Yeah.
where you can see that they're hitting milestones. You're making notes. Having that visual element does help. Making things visual across the team does help.
Mm-hmm.
But really paying attention so that it's not something where at the end of the year, okay, you tell me what you did. Well, do you know what I did? Like,
Right.
it is, it can be very admin heavy. That's why you just do it throughout the year. Make those notes because that is a big portion of it.
And just to follow up on that, it's okay not to know every exact thing that your team necessarily does because you might have, a dozen people or say.
Mhm.
It's okay, but it's not okay to just ignore it, So it
Yes,
goes back to having that periodic touch point. You say, the purpose of it is really to kind of confirm what this other person is doing, but also to catch what they've been doing and that you're not aware of, and also identify ways of how you could help your teams as well. So it's okay not to be 100% on track of, and knowing what everybody does, but it's you definitely have to make the effort as a leader to ensure you've captured what they're doing.
absolutely. So, why do companies often promote top performers into leadership, and what risks come with that? And I
Oh
mean,
man,
to
you know
me,
this,
yeah, for me, top
yeah.
performers, into leadership, it speaks for itself,
Hmm.
but I get the risk part because you're going from a doer to a leader. So you're going from an individual contributor, well, you might have been a rock star, and they're like, hey, why not make you in charge of people? The risk, when have you ever led people?
Yes.
Just because you're an exceptional at what you do as an individual does
Yes.
not mean that you are going to do well as a leader. And
Yeah.
if that is something that you are wanting to do and wanting to, I want to be promoted. I want to be not just for the money. Everyone is chasing the money, the titles, the clout, whatever, but understanding what you're getting into by doing that. You
Mm.
need to be there to be a service to the people.
Hmm.
And so, top performers, yes, I know you can get the work done. The risk, you don't know how to lead people to get the work done.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. The problem is also you may be super introverted and you're like, nah, I don't want to lead people, but you're going to say, well, I want to get paid though too,
Yeah,
you know.
I'm not trying
And
to leave
so,
money on the table.
yeah, exactly. And like, you can't almost fault a person for wanting to get paid. Maybe there's no opportunities as an individual contributor to grow as far as in a company, and
Yeah,
that sucks. Because so the only way forward now is either you leave the company or you take on this new leadership position and you're miserable at it. So that kind of sucks too because now you don't like this position, so your performance may go down, but you're doing it for the money, and sometimes that's understandable too. But it's up to managers, I guess, to figure out what looks right for that person.
yeah. And hiring the right people can really help carry the leader to make sure, like, if you start to have people
Mm.
underneath you, so you try to build a solid team,
Hmm.
but you still are the coach. And we talked
Yep.
about this you still have to coach. And even
Yes.
as an introvert, you're going to have to step up, do it, step out. But it's part of the job. You have to get it in your mind that this will have to be done, and you want to be there to again be of service to the people, because people will remember the good leaders, the bad leaders. They make or break whether people stay in a company or leave. It happens
Hmm.
quite often, and it's like, do
Hmm.
you want to be the reason why people leave? Because you chose to take on the additional responsibility,
Yeah.
and you should have known what would come with that responsibility.
That's a really good point too. And if you're in a position to hire, promote an individual contributor to that leadership position, you should know that person's, weaknesses and strengths. And so, maybe this person is extremely introverted. You're like, well, I'm not sure he's extremely introverted, but maybe you see some potential in that person, And so, as a leader that's going to promote an introvert into a leadership position, you have your work cut out for you. You
Yeah,
have to mentor and you have to train and just build that confidence in the person. And
yeah.
so that's a possibility too. So you can't just promote somebody and then not mentor them.
Hmm.
So that would be horrible. But yeah, so I guess it's the leaders. responsibility to also know if you promote somebody, to make sure they're successful in that new position.
That's right. And that leads us to the next one. How should a new leader redefine what success looks like?
Mm,
And I think for me, where success was solely driven on you as an individual, now the success is how your team delivers. And so the shift is yes, you have a part of that because you do report to someone, but ultimately that team is driving your success, driving that now department success. So the better you equip them, the better you mentor them, as you mentioned, the more successful they are in the work they're doing, meaning hitting their goals, hitting those targets, whatever the case may be. That then is that new definition of success um, that you have to think about.
true. So I think as individual contributors, sometimes we measure success on how much better we are against our peers, right?
Mm,
And I think that's a lot of times, at least kind of what I do. Am
mhm.
I doing the right thing? Am I doing enough? I look at my peers. What are they doing? And am I at par with them or exceeding? So I
Mhm.
think the same kind of similar way goes when you become a leader. Maybe you compare yourself to other managers or other teams, and you're
Yeah.
like, are we performing as high or as good as other teams, perhaps? So I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I completely agree. It's
Mhm.
just another thing to take into consideration. That's just the way I look at
Yeah. All right. So, what's the hardest part about letting go of doing the work yourself?
it.
I think you know what, flat out, people don't want to let go. I think
No.
they are so used to being an individual contributor that I think, for one, they're like, well, I can just do it myself, or I
Yeah.
can do it better. Or when I talk to people, they're not doing it the way I would do, so I'm going to just do it myself. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Then I think sometimes with new leaders, they feel threatened almost that if I
Mm.
have a team member that shines, now
Mm.
my job is at risk because they're displaying all of this success and everyone's like, look at them. And now I'm at risk of losing my job versus just doing what you got to do. You
Mm.
know, I as a person that's been in charge of people, I will give kudos to whoever did the work. I'm not taking any
Yeah.
credit for anyone, and you shouldn't get into that business. Prop your team up because at the end of the day, people need to grow as well, and we need to know
Yeah.
who is positioned for that growth. So if you're going to
Yeah.
constantly hold something over them and take all the credit and all of that BS, it's like you're not doing anyone a
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I'm thinking about it from a different way. I'm like, give me a leader that wants control of doing things. I love that. Like to me,
favor.
that's my job is so much easier. I'm like some leaders, like you said, just do not want to give up control, and I'm like, hey, that's fine. I don't have a control issue. Well, okay, I do have some control issues, but
Let's tell the
sometimes
truth here. Let's keep it honest.
yeah, keep it real. I do have some control issues, but I see my manager or leader just like they just want to do this thing, and I'm like,
Mm,
cool. I appreciate that sometimes, because they're like they know exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it, and it saves me from doing iteration after iteration after iteration when they have a clear vision of what they want.
yeah.
And usually, honestly, they are happy. I'm there to help,
Hmm.
and I'm a true believer of helping your boss shine. Like that's my job. That's the way I see
Yeah.
it. I'm like I'm gonna do everything I can to make my boss shine, and if I could help in any little way, that's great. My boss shines, the team shines, I shine, and it usually like it works out to my benefit, honestly. But so yeah, give me that boss any day. I'll take him.
Yeah. And I mean, I think people just don't like again for those that and I think about when I'm thinking about letting go, I'm thinking of people that I've seen in the past that
Mm-hmm.
have made it to higher level leadership positions that still do
Mm.
that. They
Yeah, that's a
still
good
think
point.
along the mindsets of as an individual contributor, I always did it,
Yeah.
but it'll eventually catch up. It'll eventually lead to
Uh,
burnout because guess what? You
yeah.
go on vacation, And
Yeah.
instead of having a number two or someone that you're
Yes.
willing to trust,
Yeah.
you have trust issues. I can do it myself. You don't give it up. Now you're working constantly.
Oh.
So I recently had a young man ask me, how do you balance, like, have a true work life balance? And,
Mm,
when you start to have these additional, like, you start moving up in level. And I'm
mm,
like, you got to have a strong team.
mm,
You got to be able to count and rely on your team. You have to have clear expectations, have trust, and know that your team is going to get it done, have your back, take care of business, and then you just jump back in the fold. And that's it. But some are just like, if they do it in a week's time that they're gone, they're no longer going to have a job. This other person is, who knows what goes through their head as to
mm.
why you can't just let go. And that's going to jeopardize, I would think, your work life balance, because work is going to be the majority. Your
Yeah.
life is actually the minority. And then it's going to spill over into, well, hey, why can't you sit by the pool? What are you doing over there? Can you not take a break? Why do you have your laptop? Why are you on all of these things,
Mm.
will come when it's just like, shut it down, leave it at the house, head on out and enjoy your time. You need time to recharge.
Larry, you just yanked me out of vacation head, brother.
Oh,
You just brought a flood of bad like memories, came on here
oh
now.
man.
Yeah, because I totally agree. I've seen some very senior people that do not let go, and I end up waiting on them for something like literally weeks. Regardless of how many times I remind them, it's like, hey, I need this or you need to get this done.
Mm,
Nothing, crickets. Because they do everything themselves. There's no time, and they can't possibly do everything themselves. So like,
no.
I end up they end up being having such a bad reputation across an organization because they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, such and such never gets back with you. Such and such, will always not get it right or whatever because they try to do everything themselves. And so, yeah, reality brain just hit me.
Yeah. And the thing is they're not, for some reason, it doesn't seem like it's of concern, because they are at this
Yes,
level. Like, it's
yes.
just like,
Oh my
so
God, yes.
what? And
Yeah.
they just, well, you're gonna have to wait on me until I finally get to it. When, if you just let go of other things on your plate,
Mm.
you can then take care of business. On being late is just, I don't even know how people can tolerate it at a certain level. Because to me, I'd be like, when what's the deadline? And do we have it? If we don't have it within this amount of this time, you could be looking somewhere else. You're not going to be at this level. And because to me, it's just a reflection of a reoccurring problem. And I just don't see any reason for that. Not at all.
And that attitude spreads across, like it trickles down to your team as well.
Oh, it
So,
does.
and
It
that's the
does.
second problem, second order
Yeah.
effect of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because now you're setting, it's okay to behave like this. It's
Hmm.
okay to be late to meetings. It's okay to not pay attention. Hey, repeat it all again. It's okay to do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So then you start spreading this message, and if people aren't recognizing that's not the way you should behave,
Yeah.
now you've just created, I won't say it's a toxic leader, but just not a high performing leader.
Yeah.
They're not. They're just in there performing, but they could be doing far better. It's like, come on. And for those that, as we talked about, something to give back to up and coming leaders, people that might be, kind of early in their leadership path.
Mm.
And now, as we're speaking, even those that have been in there and never really had that training, it's like, stop it. Stop it. You got to look at yourself and say, why can't I let go? What
Mm.
is the fear? You've made it. What is the problem? Why can't you let go? Answer the question, figure it out, look at your people. And if you don't have the right people and there's no trust, well, maybe you need to reevaluate that, or just look within. Maybe it's your own issue, but you got to do better.
Yeah. I think going back, I'm reflecting on what you're saying. I think there comes a point where people just do not mentor their teams,
No.
and they don't have like a number two or number three. And so they don't mentor those people. So therefore they're like, oh, I can't give this task to John Smith, or Jane Smith because they don't know.
Mhm.
but they don't know. They're also not thinking to themselves, well, they don't know. I should teach them. You know,
Exactly.
that's the problem. And so then you just get so high up to the point where you're like, wow, nobody knows anything, and I don't have time to teach them. So you could have taken the opportunity earlier on to teach
Hmm.
small bits of the task or of the organization.
Yeah.
But now you become so high, it's just like it's too much. You need a whole other
Hmm.
person to train a team, and you're like, ah, I'll do it myself. It's quicker.
Yeah. And that leads to the next one. How do you balance technical expertise with leadership responsibilities? And this is kind of along the lines of what you're saying, because you have all this expertise, but you're not sharing that. You're not
Mm-hmm.
cascading it down.
Mm-hmm.
And though you are bringing in people,
Mm,
maybe there are gaps because, like, hey, you hire someone, they have a good foundation. They may not have everything, but they're solid enough. But
mm-hmm.
now, how are you closing the gaps?
Mm,
How are you saying go to this training or read this material or whatever you need to do to shore it up so that way when you do leave, I know there's not going to be a misstep. They're going to keep it going. I can say, hey, here's all that you need. They can figure it out and they'll keep the ship moving. um, where it's like, thinking about the military, everyone's trained up along the same path, the same tactical plans, the strategies, the wartime all of this stuff. And you have all of the multiple leaders in a chain of command where if someone's down, next up. So ask yourself, who is the next up?
yeah.
And most of the time, it's going to be like, well, this person and excuses and excuses. It's like, no, you need to be prepared in the
Mm-hmm.
event anything could happen. You could just get sick. You could be anything. There's an emergency, family. You need to be out of pocket. And let's say you have to drop everything and you can't address anything. How will your team be left?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the show cannot stop because a leader's out of the office. That's crazy to me. That's really nuts.
Yeah. So, how do you respond when your team member knows more about the details than you do? Fine.
Welcome.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the problem? And so many
Absolutely. Yeah.
people, this goes along with what I'm saying. So many people would feel some kind of way of not. I have team members that's why they're SMEs, subject matter
Yeah.
experts in their
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
They, on the nitty gritty details, they will be well into that. And that's fine. You're giving me a higher level review of what's going on. Now that's me. I would like to know overall how's this project going? Overall, how's your work going?
Mm-hmm.
Any major things that need to get escalated to me when you need to have me get involved. No, I got it. Okay. Then I know you do this stuff over here. Keep doing your thing. Whereas some want to know every single detail. I need to know how you're doing it. Now you're getting a little bit into the micromanagement space a little bit, and how are you doing this and how are you doing that, and I have no problem. You can know far more than me in that space. Totally fine with it.
Yes. Just to go back to that last point you made, just a little bit different perspective.
Hmm.
So I'm happy when somebody knows more about it than I do. Great. Like this is a gap that I have, and we know this,
Yeah.
and I need to close that gap. So I may be the person that will ask hey, so how are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Not out of necessarily a micromanagement perspective, although
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, like I have some I have some issues with that I'm trying to resolve, but more of just trying to better myself and
Yeah.
understand, you
Yeah.
know.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense.
But I guess another person could take it as like, why is he micromanaging? I told him that this is good. I have it under control. So maybe it's just my thing of my issue of not properly communicating. Maybe if I'm like,
And I
hey, I'm
think
here to.
depending on how, yeah, actually, and depending on how the managers capture the information too.
Mm,
Because if, like, going back to like visualizing your team's performance, so having a reflection of each space of work that they're in
mm,
and being able to say, what is the goal that you have in that space?
mm,
How are we tracking in that space? What is the current state of what you're doing? Any problems come up? Anything you need escalated to me? That kind
yeah,
of picture
yeah,
gives you details enough as a leader to say, okay, great. Now, again, knowing like, well, how, like, for example, if they have an external meeting with a third party, what happens in those meetings? I don't need to join the meeting, but what happens in those meetings? What's the agenda look like? What are the
Mm.
topics you go? Do you send out a report? Can you show them a report? That way you have a basis of what's doing. Now, managing it day to day, you're doing that. I don't need to know that. And I don't have an issue with that. But if you were to say, hey, can you join this meeting for me? I need to be able to step in. And as long as
True.
I can step
Yeah.
in and run that meeting and not be totally clueless, I'm good.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's
good point.
that's I'm comfortable sitting like that. But to say that, let's say that I had someone, I'm over a team and maybe someone's certified in Python or some coding thing, and I'm like, well, that's not my thing. I'm not certified in that. And you're telling me stuff. I'm like, wow, that seems like a lot, but okay. But again, I would still go off that bigger reflection to keep me abreast of what's going on without getting too far into the details.
I'll give you just a little bit more concrete example that maybe people would relate to right now.
Hmm.
Is there are some people out there that are better at using AI, are better at leveraging AI for work
Oh
than
yeah,
others.
yeah.
I'm guilty. I just led a project that is like
Are you talking
extremely
about
AI
us? I
heavy.
think you're talking about us.
That's true. Yeah, I could definitely, yeah, you're all about AI, and I'm like, just how do you spell it? I need to Google AI. So tell me how to spell it. No, but like, I found myself in a situation where I'm like, holy crap, like I don't know anything about this. And so I sat and like, teach me, how do I do this? So yeah, that's a really current example that's yeah, even between us actually, honestly. So yeah.
All right. So, what military experiences prepared you for your first corporate leadership role?
Mm. So for me, it's actually
Hmm.
my last, well, I guess last couple of positions where I had a lot of DA civilian, Department of Army civilians working on the team. And I think that is the best preparation because, you know, I was so used to working with service members, and there's a different interaction with service members. I feel like I could be just a little bit more direct, could just give direction and let them go execute their own. But I found it in the air quote civilian world, it's a lot different. Like when I'm dealing with DA civilian, it's I can't be as direct. I can't be as blunt. Which
Hmm.
maybe that means I shouldn't be as direct and blunt with service members. I don't know. Maybe that's a fault of mine. But
Yeah.
I think that prepared me. Um, what about you?
I would think overall the leadership training, having good leaders, really helped me when it came to being over people in the civilian
Mm,
sector. Though it was still an adjustment, I think I was set up for success by some really good leaders to
mm,
um, kind of be able to cascade and have that. What was provided to me, I was able to provide for others, and I really carried that in the military with when I was
true.
still
Yeah.
in, and then I can bring that on. And then I think also that drive to succeed in the military, always wanting to put my best foot forward, always, as one leader would say, you're always a go-getter. You're always trying to do your best, and not to say that I'm doing it of anything but myself. So I'm self-motivated to do the best that I possibly can. So that is what's going to happen in the civilian sector. So I
Mm,
would think that's what I got out of the military,
nice.
which could kind of help me get in. It's still an adjustment, dealing with the
Yeah.
personalities. And of course, in the military, you can be very move out, go ahead and get this done. Whereas now you're not telling anybody to move out. Hey, go get this done. You gotta, put on in the sense of like they used to say kid gloves. So you definitely have to learn how to navigate in that civilian sector. Um,
Oh my
but
God. That's interesting. I'm thinking about when you said move out. Um, I think there's a lot of times in the military where you give a task to, a young NCO or young officer, and sometimes you say, hey, go figure it out, you know? And I'm not sure necessarily in the civilian world you could probably do that. I'm not sure. I don't know. But what are your
You
thoughts?
know, uh, I could see that come up sometimes where
Yeah.
leaders, like I'm a leader, but someone's over me and they don't know,
Mm,
nor can they give you any perspective.
mm,
And they go, just go figure it out.
mm.
Like, I can't believe you're asking me that. You should be able to figure this out when the fact is they don't know. And it's
Okay.
like, just say
Okay, that's
you
different. All right.
yeah, just say you don't know. So I think that comes up sometimes
Ah,
where just say like I have no clue. Let's figure this out together.
yeah, yeah,
Go grab something, see what you come up with. Let's bring it back to the table. Let's talk about it. Like let's see if it makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I would think I would experience that more than just go figure it out. You
Mm,
know, I
mm.
think there would have to be some context around go figure it out.
That's true. I guess in the military, we kind of do sometimes, at least I did that sometimes on purpose. I usually like to provide some really good guidance, or at least the starting point. But
Mm,
sometimes sometimes I had to kind of force people to get to that mindset of
yeah,
like, you got the answers. You really do.
yeah,
Especially if I know that you got the answers, you're like, go figure it out. I'm not going to spoon feed you everything.
yes,
It's one thing if I'm sending you out into total wild and we both don't know what's going on. But
yeah,
sometimes I think it's a thing of like, okay, you just don't have confidence in your skills, so I'll
true.
tell them to go figure it out. All right, so that's good. That's helpful putting it in perspective. Cool.
But
Thanks.
that makes sense though, because you want people to be resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too easy for people to just come back and say, "Well, can you tell me or show
Yeah.
me?" Or, and it's like, no, you need to learn how to figure this out. You need to
Yep.
learn how to be resourceful.
Yes.
And I think as a up and coming leader and someone that may be early on, really try to figure it out,
Yes.
and exhaust
Yes.
all your means before you say I don't know or can you help me or at least come to the table with like here's what I've found, but don't just
Yes.
come with a well how should I do this, or you're giving me a new
I love that.
task I don't know
Yeah.
how to do it tell me, and it's
Yes.
like no,
Yes.
going back to AI, shoot, ask ChatGPT to tell you how to do it. Like, be resourceful, look up articles, whatever you can do to figure it out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
bring something back to your leader to say, hey, XYZ, what do you think? Now they have something to chew on. They can have an opinion about that and they can say, hey,
Yeah.
this is a great start. What I'm missing is whatever. Or they could say, this is way off base. This is not what I'm thinking
Mm.
is. Okay, now we've
Mm.
aligned. Okay, now I can go forth and
Mm.
go dig some more.
Yeah, thank you for tying it back in here. And that's actually it's a really excellent point because um I think that's another change that we didn't capture earlier or that I didn't mention is that once you become a manager or a leader, you're a problem solver as well.
Yes.
So that goes
Yes.
back to being resourceful and trying to figure it out on
Yes.
your own. And
Yes.
that so yeah, this all ties. This is great. Yeah, it's true. So you're a problem solver, and like your boss is no longer feeding you answers. It's like, all right, you're a leader. You got your own sets of problems. You need to figure out how to solve those problems, and
Yeah.
that's part of your job as a leader. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like to add on just because you mentioned that, like always look to solve problems within your team first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't look to hand it off to someone else, make it
Mm-hmm.
someone else's problem. Why can't someone else do it? If it's handed off to you as a leader in your team, try to figure it out. Try to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how can we support this? And bringing your team in to say, hey guys, gals, here's a task. We have, something going on. What do y'all think? It's okay to do that. Like, you don't always have to have all the answers to say, what do y'all think the best approach is? Just kind of in your space, a little in your space. How do you think we should tackle this? And just like, let's give food for thought. Like, if you have the flexibility to do that, it's like, why not throw it on the table and let everyone, kind of chime in? Doesn't hurt.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is
And I
great.
think this would
That's a
lead
really good
to
point.
why is self-identity so important in the transition from doer to leader? And I think having that confidence, humility, to be able to even do something like that, where you're like,
Mm,
I'm confident enough in myself and in my team to say, hey
mm,
guys, I don't know. Here's what we have. What do y'all think? Or maybe it's like, well, I have an idea, but I'd like to hear what y'all have to say and get their input and then say, well, my thought was this. And if it's something that can happen in that respect. But I think being confident in who you are, you won't feel threatened. You won't feel like someone's going to take your job because you know what you're capable of. You know how you're
true.
coming off to your manager and what how they're feeling about you. You won't feel any kind of way. You're going to be like, I'm going to do my thing. And even if you see someone starting to act, squirrely and trying to shine and stuff like that, that stuff will work itself out. As long as you go with who you are, you don't have to worry about that.
So that's a good point. Um, I've seen people make really big, drastic changes, negative changes when they become a manager. So it's some people, not everybody, but some people really take that job title as like I am God now, you know?
Oh, for real.
And
Yes. Yeah.
and they become jerks, and they
Oh, yeah.
become mean to people and they kind of
Hmm.
lose their identity that they started off with as a person. I'm like, oh, this is a decent human being. But all of a sudden you put them in a leadership position and they're now like they're completely different. They're jerks and they just have no compassion anymore. But I think also it's because they think that's what a manager looks like or should look like.
Yeah. Saying like, I'm
And
the boss, I'm in
mhm,
charge, reminding people of that.
yeah,
Like, we already know. What do you need to say that for? So if anyone's listening, cut it out. Stop saying
yes,
it. They already know. Don't say I'm the boss, I'm in charge.
yes,
They know that. Go ahead, T.
exactly. No, you're right. Like it's honestly, it's one of like a really really critical point. It's like some people really change, and I think you're right. Like if what you're saying, like if you're a new manager, you notice that about yourself, yeah, stop doing it right now because that is going to be the biggest opportunity for you to fail is because you're a jerk now, and you think
Yeah.
you have to push people around and tell people that you're the boss. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that's a really big fault that people step into.
It almost comes off to me at times when I hear about it out in different spaces, almost
Mm,
like the person becomes a bully. It seems like they just have this way about them and the way they speak to people, almost
yep,
like I'm in charge, I'm at this level, I can talk to you
yep.
any kind of way, condescending, all of this
Hmm.
stuff. And it's a terrible look.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you're smiling at the people above you, treating the people below you any kind of way, and it won't work out. It really won't. And it's like you can have way more humility and get so much further because as a new leader and as someone that may be earlier on, you should be striving to build that high performing team,
Hmm.
that team that has each other's backs. You can count on them, they can count on you. You set clear expectations, and there is trust. And if you're that type of person, you don't think they'll hang you out to dry as soon as they can. It's like and get you out of there. It's like that's
Yeah.
not going to work out. They should want you to be on their team. I'm bringing my fist in. They should want you to be
I like
there.
it.
They want you as that leader. They respect you. They're
Yes.
like, I'm staying here because of you. Not that they have to, but something has to be a reason why. And why not add to that to say
Hmm.
that I am going to be an outstanding leader for you and do my best to ensure you succeed?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But some people may not know as new managers what a high performance team may look like, right? I think the very basics is that, make sure your team can trust you, make sure you're transparent with them,
Yep.
and you're honest. Like that's basics 101.
101.
You could
Yep.
learn that other, skills of making a high performance team later on, but very basic, you know.
Yeah.
Make sure your team can trust you. Make sure you're transparent. Make sure you're honest with them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So finally, we'll begin to close with this question. What practical steps can someone take before they're promoted to prepare for leadership? And I
Listen to this
know,
podcast.
yeah, for one, this would definitely set you up for hopefully. through this series will set you up for success, and hopefully at the end we'll have something nice to give our listeners that want to really take something away from this journey
Yeah.
in season two. But I think really taking the steps to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is learn what it takes to be a leader. And
Mm-hmm.
you may have been exposed to what you would say good leaders, what you might say is bad leaders. But with all of that, you can get nuggets from all of them. And so
Yes.
it's going to contribute to and help mold you as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think from T and I's experience, that's what we're trying to convey here is
Mm-hmm.
from all of those experiences, things we've learned, even flaws of our own that we still experience, is to help the next generation of leaders, so to speak. Not to say that you're younger, older, doesn't matter, just in that next wave for success, the best possible success you could have. And that's not to say that you won't go into an organization that could be completely not like that. They could be like, no, this is a fast paced, cutthroat, like I want to see who rises to the top. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, if that's the kind of environment you want to be in, okay. But if it's like, if that going back to that self identity of who you are, if it's like, if this is not my thing and you can't maybe have the opportunity to reshape that, then that may not be the place for you.
No, you're right. I think everything you says is correct, and step one is education. But some people may say, "Well, I don't have time for listening to podcasts. I don't have time to read." Blah blah blah. It's a lot of good excuses. Okay, I get it. But here's something that you easily do is, and I think this is anybody could do this. Reflect back on your bosses, or if you're still in
Yes.
school, reflect back on your professors, your teachers, your coaches.
Hmm.
Reflect back on all those people and say, what can I take away? Like my favorite boss, my favorite teacher, professor, coach, what was so good about them, And literally just write those things down, and then like reflect just the opposite. What about all those bad people, bad bosses, bad professors, bad coaches? What made them so bad, And take note of that as well. I mean, we all have that ability to do that any given time. And I think that's the easiest thing to do is just really take note of those skills of good positive leadership and try to execute on them, and then take note of those negative things and say, okay, I'm not going to do this, And I think that is probably, another way of learning, is a reflection. It's not going to
And
cost you
one thing
anything.
is,
Just be
yeah,
useful.
absolutely. One thing you said is, they may not be able to read a book. You may not be
Hmm.
able to watch us on YouTube, but you can surely listen to us on Apple
Yeah, true.
Podcasts and
Yeah.
Spotify on your way to work. Yes, you
I
feel
like it.
free to do that. We're on both of those platforms, so feel
I
free to
like it.
check it out. But everything T just said, I mean, make those notes. I mean, that would be
Yeah.
just just easy things to just sit there and reflect on that. And then you couple that with some sort of leadership course,
Yeah.
intro to leadership
Hmm.
course, leadership, new leadership training, anything like that, or our course that we're trying to deliver here. I think it'll help you, to pull those things together. So excellent words,
Yeah.
team. Excellent advice.
Thanks, I appreciate it. But actually, just to go back, add on, like the more I think about it, the more you talk about it. Also, another thing is like when you write the stuff down and you see what works for you, what you thought good leadership is, it's actually like a small window to what kind of leader you are or you want to be.
Mm,
That's the cool
wow.
part, And you're like, oh, I don't, I like a person that doesn't micromanage me. Like, oh, okay, that's the kind of leader I should be or I want to be. That's
Yeah.
what resonates with me. So yeah, I think it's even good now. Actually, I think about it. Probably I should just to get a little bit more insight about how I am as a leader because sometimes you have a mental image of like we're awesome leaders, but like reality is does not match.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you reflect back on those things, you're like, oh, okay, that's what I like doing. That's what I don't like doing, or that's the kind of leadership uh, that I like. Okay, sorry, I'm having like epiphanies here.
Man, and it's rock solid. I love it.
I know.
I don't have anything to say. You just
Well, that's
summed it up
good.
very well. I mean, you gave some great guidance. I'm not trying to taint anything, so we're all good.
Sounds good. Awesome.
All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed season two, episode one, from doer to leader, making the shift. And tune in for this whole series of
Hmm.
content that we'll be bringing to you. We'll be really helping to kind of build on that, each one building for those new leaders and those people that may already be in their leadership journey early on. And as we talk today, maybe even for those that are more senior. So hopefully you enjoy it. We're looking for you to tune in next time, and we'll catch you next time.